You're listening to the Around the Huddle podcast, powered by PAC-Hub. Around the Huddle, college sports beyond the game.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of the Around the Huddle podcast, where we talk about all things college sports beyond the game. As always, I'm your host, John Gross. Thrilled to have you with us. Summer's here. Weather's great. College sports are winding down. We still have baseball, but that's about it at this point of the year. That does not mean, however, that there is no news related to college athletics. In fact, I would say what has occurred in the past 7 days, probably as impactful of a week stretch as we've ever seen in the world of college athletics, and we will break that all down today. But first, a reminder that we are powered by our good friends at PAC-Hub. Take a look bottom of your screen. If you are a student athlete and you're looking to transfer, if you are a coach and you want that missing piece, PAC-Hub is the place for you. By signing up for PAC-Hub from the athlete perspective, it creates a page for you where it populates different specifications. It allows you to stand out, helps you connect with coaches to find that next step in your college athletic journey, your stats, your measurables, academic info. Beyond that, it is truly a revolutionary product that is state-of-the-art in this industry. And again, with the portal being such a hot button topic, people are always wondering, how can I capitalize on this? How can I find that next step? PAC-Hub is the place. Same thing goes for the coach's perspective. You want that missing piece. You want that one other player. How do you find them? PAC-Hub allows you to search through a bunch of different specifications and find that missing player. So take a visit, pac-hub.com. Again, pac-hub.com. Before we get into our guest today, who, if you are a fan of the show, you know this guy very well. He's a third-time guest on Around the Huddle. A reminder to also like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Every time that you subscribe, every like that we get, every comment that we get helps us get more visibility, helps us create more episodes, get more and more guests as well to deliver the content that you want. Okay, so with all of that important stuff out of the way, let's get into today's episode. Sam Finkel is the definition of a friend of the show. Sam is a sports attorney. He'll talk a little bit more about his career before we start, but this is somebody who has given us so much of his time, so much of his insight, so much of his expertise on a couple of previous episodes, that with the earth-shattering revelation from last Friday, when the college athletics landscape completely changed with the approval of the House settlement by Judge Claudia Wilken, there's no better person to talk about all of this than Sam. So let's bring on Sam Finkel to break it all down. The House settlement completely changing the college athletics landscape. Here he is. Sam, welcome back to the pod, my friend. You are, as I said, the definition of a friend of the show, a third-time guest. We're honored to have you on.
Repeat. Listen, I'm amped to be here. This is awesome. I'm excited. Hair's a little bit longer than the first two, but, still great content, ready to rock and roll.
You're rocking the flow, my friend. It's a good look.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I know before we start, you do have a little disclaimer that you do like to share with us on the show, so we can start with that.
Yeah, sure. So again, I'm not representing anybody listening. It's not legal advice. Just sharing, my opinion on the recent changes in sports and some facts that have happened, and it's just more of that kind of perspective. But if you have issues with that, you definitely should talk to an attorney. I'm a sports and entertainment attorney. Feel free to reach out to me, but none of this is legal advice. So,
Absolutely. Important stuff to state. And with that, let's dive into today's discussion. We've touched on the House settlement, us too, on this show on multiple occasions. We were waiting for Judge Claudia Wilken to finally give the A-OK on this. That July 1st date where those payouts will begin right around the corner. There was some anxiety. Will we have this decision signed before then? The answer is yes. Last Friday night, it was approved by Judge Claudia Wilken. And as I said before, the college athletic landscape changed forever with that announcement. Let's quickly touch on the origins of this case. How did this come to be?
Yeah, so this is just, it's a lot, right? So there were a bunch of antitrust lawsuits against the NCAA, and this case is like an amalgamation of all these cases. House was originally a swimmer, And basically they sued the NCAA for breaking antitrust rules. And this is the NCAA's settlement. They agreed because they were worried that they were going to lose, which honestly they probably would have, given where they've been with Alston and all these other Supreme Court cases and, pretty significant stuff. So this is their agreement that they came to settle some of the antitrust issues. There's still antitrust issues remaining, among other things. It's a pretty complicated case involving a lot of different things.
Yeah, and there is opposition to it as well. We're going to dive into that as the show goes on. But let's dive into what this actually means. There's been a lot of discussion about how this impacts the landscape of college athletics. So let me pull this up quickly. Made a little slide to help people out visually. There are different aspects of this House settlement. I'll quickly run through it and then would love if you can dive deeper into each point. So number one, it allows participating colleges to share up to 22% of the average Power Conference revenue, which initially will start at $20.5 million as the initial cap. Now, colleges do not have to opt into that. It is optional. They do not have to opt into that 100%, but that is allowed. So that is where the revenue sharing to current student athletes comes from. Number two, $2.8 billion in back pay. Yes, that is billion with a B, to qualified D1 athletes who played since 2016. It also has an NIL enforcement clearinghouse mechanism. NIL deals worth more than $600 will be looked into via NIL Go. Deloitte involved in that as well. We'll touch on that for sure. It ends the caps on athletic scholarships. So for football, for example, it used to be 85. That number has now changed. With that, it also adds roster limits. Previously, there were no limits, but there was the scholarship limit as well. So, all right, Sam, where do you want to start with all of these points?
We can go top down. I'm totally cool with that. Yeah. So basically, one of the points I would make with the direct contribution of revenue sharing is, like you said, schools can opt out. The Ivy League pretty much has already opted out for it. Not pretty much, they have. And this direct revenue sharing is interesting because it is discretionary for the schools. And one of the things that you're seeing happen is schools are, trying to contingency plan, and they come up with this 75-15-5-5 rule. And what's not really a rule, but what it does is they're saying 75% will go to football, 15% will go to men's basketball, 5% will go to women's basketball, and the other 5% will be spread amongst all other sports. So that's just a framework that has been popular as of late. That's one of the ones that's been talked about. However, that it very well could be the standard that you'll see with a lot of schools. Not all schools have to do it that way. It is discretionary, which again could lead to some problems, particularly with Title IX. So there's a lot of things going on with that. A lot of schools are very happy with at least with the cap, because it provides them clarity. So there was just so much uncertainty, they didn't know how to operate. So now there's some answers, and the fact that there are some answers is allowing them to operate and plan and budget and come up with, and honestly, what you see this year will not be the final product. It will go through various evolutions. I mean, there will be lawsuits that'll challenge it, that'll make them have to change. It's just as much in flux as it always has been, but at least there's like a temporary answer. I think that's the best way to describe at least this component of it. It's really just a temporary answer. Yeah. So that's what I'd say for the first one. Do you have any questions on that first point? Or
yeah, I guess you talked about how it does. Look, we've seen a lot of coaches give their thoughts on the revenue sharing, on NIL, and all of that. Do you think that this makes coaches' jobs easier now? Like, what is your kind of read on some of the reaction been from coaches on that first aspect of things?
So, I mean, easier is a difficult word to, give for this. I think what it does is it professionalizes, college sports, right? So like you're operating as leagues do, as the NFL does, right? Like I'm going to stick, because I'm comfortable with college football, I'm going to probably, and NFL, I'm going to stick probably to football, but this really does apply in a much broader sense. But when I give examples, I'll probably stick to football. So in that sense, I mean, you're operating very similarly to the NFL in the fact that you have cap. Now, what's different is the NFL salary cap is $279.2 million. And so you're looking at 10 times the amount of salary cap for one sport and for one team for 53 positions. So it's very, and obviously salaries vary significantly. So it's a little bit of a false comparison, but at the same time, just to understand the scope at what you're dealing with, they have to take that 20.5 million and spread it throughout all the sports. So I just think it's important to recognize that at the outset.
Okay, so let's move on to point number 2, $2.8 billion in back pay to qualified D1 athletes who played since 2016. My question with that, how will they determine who gets what?
Yeah, so it's predominantly going to go to the revenue sports, which are football and basketball. And that's just kind of what you're going to see. And because of that, there has already been a challenge by a group of women athletes under Title IX grounds because they believe that they are entitled to a larger share of the compensation in back pay. So that has actually been appealed almost immediately. So the decision was on Friday night, and this appeal came in Wednesday. So already within that time frame, there's already been one challenge. So, and it's on this particular issue.
Okay. And certainly we will see more challenges. We'll touch on that in a little bit. So that's something to watch for. Former D1 athletes who played since 2016 eligible for back pay. Next up, and I've seen some controversy surrounding this one as well. The House settlement requires a review of NIL deals worth more than $600 via NIL Go.
Yeah, so actually, I think that with this point, there's one other thing that I think we should discuss as well.
Yeah.
It's the creation of the College Sports Commission. And so what that really is it's just an oversight committee that oversees the enforcement of the terms, including the revenue sharing and the compliance. They assume certain responsibilities that were previously managed by the NCAA. And they resolve disputes through mandatory expedited arbitration. That's just kind of like part of what they do. And it's a separate entity than the NCAA. And so what this College Sports Commission does is it decentralizes the NCAA and inherently makes the conferences significantly more powerful, respective to how they were in the prior regime. And so the reason why I bring this up here is because this NIL Go is going to act essentially as an arm of this College Sports Commission, not technically, but essentially because they're reviewing the deals on behalf of this commission. And so, like you said, it's Deloitte, and they will be looking at whether deals. So there's two prongs that they're really looking for in this particular thing. So they're looking at, especially for associated entities such as collectives, like they're going to look at much higher scrutiny. But they're looking for whether the players are paid a fair market value, one, and two, whether there's a legitimate business purpose. And, it's such a, buzzwords. They don't really mean much. There's no real way. We don't have information as to what actually consists of both of those, right? I mean, fair market value is really, I saw in one article that somebody said it's what people are willing to pay. Right. That's one way to do it. But really, we don't know enough information. There's not enough information. And honestly, we may never know. It might be very tightly guarded as to what actually consists of those. I'm sure they'll give something. But what they're going to do is they have three things that they can do for each deal. Any deal over $600, like you said. They can approve it, they can reject it, or they could flag it for further review, which essentially is a rejection with some caveats, which can be remedied and improved. However, if they reject it, the student athlete can revise and resubmit, cancel the deal in its entirety, or appeal through some neutral arbitration. Those are the options that a student athlete has if they're rejected. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens with this. I guarantee this is a place where you'll see lawsuits and challenges, especially if there's just not information and nobody knows what constitutes fair market and what constitutes legitimate business purpose, right? Because anything can be said as a legitimate business purpose or an illegitimate business purpose. You just have to think about what that means, and there's really no clarity. And because of that, that's where you get challenges, and that's where you'll probably see challenges.
So you have the cap with the rev sharing, right? In some ways, there is a level playing field there, at least for all the schools who opt in. But the NIL deals is where, and as we've seen now, certain schools can afford to pay more money than other schools. I should say collectives. This will all be under review, obviously, but like, what's the enforcement mechanism now that they have this commission? Is it still through the NCAA if schools are found to be violating these policies or related to NIL, or is it through the commission? Has there been clarification on that?
Yeah, it's through the commission. They're the ones that will enforce any type of these type of actions. At least that's how it's contemplated now. We'll see how it actually looks when it happens. But from my understanding, that is how it is intended to be.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm one of the PAC-Hub's AI specialists. Today, I want to show you why PAC-Hub is the ultimate platform for college baseball players looking to transfer to a new college program. First, let's take a look at our extensive network of coaches. With over 150 coaches actively using our system, you have a huge pool of experts to connect with. Imagine having access to all these experienced coaches searching for talent like yours. You even have the ability to connect with any of these coaches via our internal messaging system. This means more opportunities to showcase your skills and find the perfect new team. Now let's switch gears and see things from a coach's perspective. Coaches can easily search for athletes by position or stat. Let's say I'm looking for a left-handed pitcher with good pitching stats. With just a few clicks, I can find top-performing pitchers who meet my criteria. This efficient search functionality ensures that coaches find the perfect fit for their teams and athletes get matched with opportunities that suit their strengths. PAC-Hub is all about connecting talent with opportunity. Whether you're an athlete looking to transfer to a new college team or a coach searching for the next star player, PAC-Hub has the tools you need to succeed. Don't miss out on the chance to be part of this amazing community. Join PAC-Hub today and take the next step in your baseball journey. Visit www.pac-hub.com to sign up now.
Dive into these next two. So the House settlement ends caps on athletic scholarships and adds roster limits, which that point especially needs some more explaining.
Yeah, so I think you explained it pretty well, but what I'd say is originally there was limitations on the number of scholarships you could have, with the roster limits being as large as you could really want. I mean, I think that it was Nebraska that had like the largest football roster. There was someone who had a chart, and assuming that chart's correct, it was like they had 201 players or something like that, which is an absurd amount for football.
Right. Just to interject, they have always been famous for their walk-ons at Nebraska.
For sure.
So
And there are some concerns with how that's going to impact, which I think are definitely worth discussing in this part of the segment. But before I get to that, I just want to say that the roster limits now, they have a hard cutoff on the amount of players you can have on the roster, and it is sport specific. I know, like I said, I'm very comfortable with the football world just because I have experience in it, and I am passionate about football. So my examples will really stick to that. But everyone will be on scholarship, so it's different. And because of that, I mean, there's really not going to be walk-on opportunities, at least not in the traditional sense that they had existed for however long college sports really have existed. So, but on the other side of the coin, right, this will expand access and benefits across non-revenue sports, right? So everyone will be allowed to have scholarships. It does. There are two sides of this. It's double-sided. I mean, some of the best college football stories are, and honestly, any sport, are from walk-ons. And you losing that, it does hurt. I think one of the ways it can be remedied, what we'll see is through the transfer portal. So people that will be walking on will just go to a different school, play for a year, and then transfer. And yeah, it takes some of the magic away. You're not in the room anymore, and it's not like a homegrown thing. But I think that's the way we're kind of going anyway. So that issue may be mitigated slightly. I mean, from a story perspective, from a sport perspective, I think we're losing some of that magic. But I think there are ways it'll be made up for it. Talented players will be able to play, and that'll still happen.
When I think of walk-ons, growing up a Penn State guy, I think of Carl Nassib, who made a very nice NFL career for himself. Came to Penn State as a walk-on. Bill O'Brien actually initially turned him away from trying to, they called it run-ons under Bill O'Brien.
They still do under people too.
There we go. So run-ons, that was the term. It still is. And he turned him away, ended up coming back out, tried out, made the team. and put together one of the best defensive seasons in Penn State history. I believe he set the single season sack record, or at least had one of the best seasons for an edge rusher in program history. So those stories certainly in jeopardy. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this was one of the issues that was holding up this settlement being approved, right?
Yes, it was a huge issue. And their solution it's really complicated in the actual opinion on Judge Wilkins discusses this a little bit, and she's like, yeah, their concerns are kind of still there, but it's fine. That's kind of how some of the players grandfathered in. There's this weird mechanism that's really complicated and just completely ignores the issue, to be quite frank. And they're like, because this is kind of an antitrust thing, right? I mean, it's restricting trade. I mean, again, trade is a very loose word in sports, but it's restricting the ability of performers.
Which of these aspects of the House settlement do you think will have the biggest impact on college athletics?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think they all will. I think the back pay probably the least. It's so hard because I think that the NIL deals are still going to happen. I have to see how what NIL Go looks like before I put it there. I think the salary cap, cap is not really going to be that big of an issue. I think they'll adjust with it. I think it's really going to be the last part, right? Where you're adding the roster limits. And I just think that'll have the most immediate impact. I think that's probably a better way. I would want to see how it plays out with the other two.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm one of the PAC-Hub's AI specialists. Today, I want to show you why PAC-Hub is the ultimate platform for college baseball players looking to transfer to a new college program. First, let's take a look at our extensive network of coaches. With over 150 coaches actively using our system, you have a huge pool of experts to connect with. Imagine having access to all these experienced coaches searching for talent like yours. You even have the ability to connect with any of these coaches via our internal messaging system. This means more opportunities to showcase your skills and find the perfect new team. Now let's switch gears and see things from a coach's perspective. Coaches can easily search for athletes by position or stat. Let's say I'm looking for a left-handed pitcher with good pitching stats. With just a few clicks, I can find top-performing pitchers who meet my criteria. This efficient search functionality ensures that coaches find the perfect fit for their teams and athletes get matched with opportunities that suit their strengths. PAC-Hub is all about connecting talent with opportunity. Whether you're an athlete looking to transfer to a new college team or a coach searching for the next star player, PAC-Hub has the tools you need to succeed. Don't miss out on the chance to be part of this amazing community. Join PAC-Hub today and take the next step in your baseball journey. Visit www.pac-hub.com to sign up now.
You did touch on the fact that there are already lawsuits, and we do expect more lawsuits to come in relation to this settlement. So what's the latest on that front?
Yeah, it's just what we discussed earlier with where it's the challenge to the back pay in terms of these women athletes who believe that the back pay will be disproportionately allocated. That is to say that it's mostly going to go to men's sports and mostly football and basketball, which is the way it's shaping up. So it's kind of a valid challenge, at least in that sense. But it's very anticipated that there's going to be challenges on almost every single one of these issues. I definitely think you're going to see it in NIL Go. I definitely think you're going to see it in Title IX. And one other thing I would say is the antitrust issue was not really settled here. So I think that there still could be challenges on the antitrust part because everything that is being done is restricting the market. So, inherently by a single entity, I guess now it's kind of a little bit split, but that's really what's happening. So, there are antitrust considerations that could still be there and likely will still be there to an extent, which means that there will be challenges.
So do you think there ever will be an end game to all of this? Is federal legislation still the one thing that would kind of solidify everything, or will we continue to be in this perpetual state of lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit?
So, yeah, listen, that's one solution. The other solution is to just not regulate it at all, which again would create some issues. But this is the only industry in which it's this heavily regulated, right? I mean, in other industries like film or music, you get what you're worth, and that's just kind of how it works. There's no all these, artificial mechanisms. And I think what that really stems from is just the amateurism model and how it was perverted over time. And I don't say that in a bad way, right? Because I mean, I do think players deserve to be paid, and I do think they should be compensated on the use of their name, image, and likeness, especially for when it's profiting organizations on their behalf. However, I just think from the evolution of where this started to where we're at, it just was, that's the way it kind of went. And I think, federal legislation probably would fix it. There still would be challenges, but at least there would be a framework that would exist. And, I remember we talked about this. It's kind of crazy, but like the states that made NIL rules in the beginning, because they were really excited about it. And I think that was like Texas and Florida and Alabama, actually were the worst off. They were the most worst off because they had rules. Everyone else didn't have rules. So and eventually every state pretty much had NIL statutes, and they do. But I think if you have some uniform policy, which is, again, this is kind of what this does, then you would have less issues. There would still be challenges and lawsuits, but it would provide some, security and clarity that this settlement just can't.
You come at this from a unique perspective because you understand the legalese, you understand the nitty-gritty of all of this, and you also are a lifelong diehard college sports fan. So you can wear two different hats at once and have fantastic insight from both perspectives. So put your college fan hat on for a second here. There it is. How different, and I guess I'm going to ask you to look into the future here, and it's tough to predict what may happen, but from a fan's perspective, how different will things look moving forward? Will this change a lot from the fan perspective, from the product perspective, or is this more of just an inside baseball type of thing that is only going to impact those who are in college athletics, whether it's as an athlete, coach, administrator, so on and so forth?
I don't know how this doesn't affect the product. I think it may help, it does try to even the playing field, but you still have these third-party deals that are going to go to the big programs, and I just don't know how that changes anything. I mean, I maybe at the bottom and the middle, it'll even the product out and create some disparity, which is good. Create parity, which is good. But I think you'll still have significant disparity at the top to the bottom. So in that sense, I mean, when you see Power 4 schools playing, bottom level schools, you're still going to see them blowing out. But I think it might make the product a little bit more interesting for those lower level schools because the playing field is even. Again, even is a relative term.
Right.
So I don't know how. I think it inherently will change the product to an extent. But again, there already is disparity at these top schools, so I'm not sure how much that change will actually affect. So we'll see. I think you're right. It's hard to project, but that's my initial thoughts.
And there's always been that disparity, of course. The App State beating Michigan type of thing happens once in a generation. What I'm curious to see moving forward is, will we see all four number one seeds make the Final Four year in, year out? Will we see, I guess Ohio State's not a good example. They were seeded way lower than they actually should have been. But let's stick with the basketball perspective. 4-1 seeds making the Final Four. If that becomes the norm, does that lead people to stop watching college athletics? It's impossible for us to know, obviously. I'm just speculating here, but I think that's certainly something to watch. As we wind down here, Sam, any other important points that you want to bring up to put a bow on things on this crucial discussion?
Sure. I'll just respond to the last thing you said.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll make people stop watching. I think that the dedicated core fans of each sport and each school will continue to watch. What the concern is losing the casual viewer. That could create a significant problem, right? I mean, you want games to be exciting. You want matchups to be exciting. You want any team to be able to win, any given Saturday, those kind of things. You want that kind of storyline because that's what makes sports interesting. So I don't think you're ever going to lose those core fans, but you need to be able to still reach the casual audience and the people that just enjoy the ambiance of sports. And I don't think these changes would change the atmosphere, the environment. I don't see that. And so from that perspective, I don't see them losing the casual fan. But I think if it's all number one seeds every single year, you really do risk that.
And by losing the casual fan, that would be catastrophic from an economic perspective, which these colleges, and most people don't understand this, and we've touched on this in the show a few times, the majority of colleges, in terms of athletic departments, either they don't make money. They lose money. It is a losing proposition for them. So the margin's already so thin. Now, much of this money will be doled out to the student athletes directly through rev sharing. If those casual fans stop watching games, networks won't be incentivized to pay as much money for the rights. And of course, the TV contracts is where so much of this money comes from. So it could be a cascading effect downward. But again, it's all hypothetical. We don't know what's to come. I know I'll still be watching. I know you'll still be watching. I know most of you out there will still be watching. Either way, it is a new era as of last Friday night with the House settlement being approved. And we'll see what's to come. I know July 1st is that first day, right, where the rev sharing begins?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As always, truly a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for the time and insight.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Sam Finkel, friend of the program, his third time on. And this one, another great episode. Hope you learned a lot on a decision that will forever change college athletics. One final reminder, we are powered by PAC-Hub, PAC-Hub.com. Take a look bottom of your screen. If you are a student athlete, if you are a coach, PAC-Hub is the place for you. You can find success stories on the social media pages. You can see some of the players who have utilized PAC-Hub to their advantage. PAC-Hub.com. If you're a player, you want to find that next up. You want to stand out amongst the crowd because there is a large crowd in the NCAA portal. Enter the PAC-Hub portal as well. Check it out. If you're a coach and you want that one missing piece, sign up for PAC-Hub, PAC-Hub.com. Again, a big thanks to Sam for joining us. Huge thanks to all of you for tuning in. Subscribe, like, comment, and we will talk to you soon on the Around the Huddle podcast.